The orchestra was still playing when Princess Catherine entered the state banquet and realized that something was terribly wrong. Her name card had disappeared. Her assigned chair beside Prince William was occupied by Queen Camilla, who remained seated as the future queen approached. Conversations died across the room. Catherine stopped, stared at the altered arrangement, and fought back tears. Then William rose from his chair, looked directly at Camilla, and declared, "Enough is enough. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update." Catherine forced herself to breathe, but the silence surrounding her became unbearable. A state banquet, a formal dinner hosted by the monarch for foreign leaders and guests, was designed to display unity, order, and national confidence. Every placement carried meaning. Every chair showed rank, trust, and the shape of the crown's future. Her seat beside William had been approved before guests arrived, placing the couple together as symbols of the reign still to come. Camilla had changed that arrangement. Minutes before the guests entered, the queen consort had ordered Catherine's name card removed and had taken the place herself. The decision left the princess standing alone before diplomats, ministers, and royals, forced to discover the insult under their watch. She initially held her expression steady, refusing to give the room the reaction it seemed to demand. A nervous footman stepped closer. Catherine asked whether there had been a mistake. He swallowed, glanced toward Camilla, and admitted that the change had been deliberate. That answer broke something. Her eyes filled, not because a chair had been lost, but because the humiliation had been planned. William saw the truth in her face. The prince pushed back his chair, rose, and turned toward Camilla. She remained seated. He looked at his wife, then at the woman occupying her place, and repeated the words that shattered the ceremony. "Enough is enough." Charles stared at the altered table in disbelief. The king had authorized no change, and his silence revealed how he had been blindsided. A senior courtier stepped forward, unfolded the seating chart, and found Catherine's discarded card hidden beneath it. The evidence ended any possibility of misunderstanding. Someone had tried to erase her position and expected the palace to remain silent. Catherine turned before her tears fully fell and walked toward the doorway. William did not follow. He remained standing while Camilla sat frozen beneath the judgment of the room. The question was no longer who owned the chair, but how deeply the struggle had wounded them, and whether the banquet would survive what he chose to do next. To the guests inside the banquet hall, the confrontation lasted only seconds. To Catherine, Camilla, William, and Charles, it carried the weight of years. One woman had spent decades fighting to be accepted by the crown. Another had become the monarchy's most trusted symbol of its future. Between them stood a prince fiercely protective of his wife, and a king desperate to prevent his family from breaking apart. That single chair exposed what each of them feared losing most. Catherine closed the withdrawing room door and let her composure crack. The Princess of Wales, the title held by the heir's wife, had spent years learning to absorb scrutiny without showing pain. Her place beside William mattered, because it acknowledged her service and the future responsibility awaiting them. Yet she pressed a handkerchief beneath her eyes and told an attendant that the chair meant nothing. Being made to feel disposable was what wounded her. William entered moments later and stopped when he saw her trying to steady her breathing. The prince crossed the room, knelt beside her chair, and apologized for failing to sense what was coming. He promised she would not be forced back into that hall simply to protect appearances. Catherine looked at him and asked whether dignity could be restored after it had been taken so publicly. He answered that it could, but only if the truth was faced. Camilla remained at the table, though her victory had begun to collapse. The queen consort, the wife of a reigning king, without sovereign power herself, insisted that she had occupied the place proper to the reigning queen. Still, she refused to say who had removed Catherine's card. Charles heard the hesitation. The king summoned a palace official and asked whether the change had passed through formal approval. The answer was immediate: no. Charles felt the room shift around him. Palace protocol, meaning the approved rules governing royal ceremonies and rank, had been bypassed beneath his own roof. He looked toward Camilla, then toward the untouched plates. She gripped the table as diplomats and courtiers sat in silence. No one resumed eating. Surrounded by people, the queen looked isolated, and the symbolic victory she had claimed began to resemble a disastrous miscalculation. William rose from Catherine's side and told her he was returning for one reason only. He would discover who helped Camilla alter the arrangement and why it happened that night. She warned him that the answer might cut deeper than the insult itself. He opened the door anyway. The missing name card had exposed the rivalry, but its trail led back to a deeply private exchange 3 days earlier. 3 days before the banquet, the palace had already witnessed the moment that made the confrontation inevitable. During a private ceremonial rehearsal, Catherine was asked to stand beside William while foreign dignitaries entered. Camilla watched from several feet away, as an official referred to the couple as the monarchy's central representatives of continuity. The words were polite. The effect was explosive. From that instant, the queen consort began searching for a way to reassert her position. Camilla said nothing while the rehearsal continued, but resentment hardened beneath her silence. The closed rehearsal, a private practice used to settle entrances, greetings, procession order, and seating before an official event, included only senior royals and trusted palace staff. Catherine and William had been placed at the center because the visiting delegation wanted to emphasize its relationship with the future king and queen. That request carried diplomatic weight. It also made the present queen feel as though the palace had already begun looking beyond her. The master of the household stepped forward and asked Camilla to move half a pace back. Catherine was then guided beside William for the greeting sequence. When the official called the couple the monarchy's central representatives of continuity, the queen's expression tightened. The receiving line, the ordered row in which royals formally welcome guests, had become a painful preview of the future. She watched Catherine take the central place and felt her own authority slipping away. Camilla waited until the room emptied before confronting Charles. She asked whether she was being replaced while still standing beside him. The king tried to calm her, insisting that Catherine's growing responsibilities did not diminish her role. Yet his careful answer only deepened her suspicion. She heard reassurance, but she felt avoidance. Catherine caught part of the exchange from the adjoining corridor. Later, she told William that every duty she accepted now seemed to be treated as an attack. The prince urged her not to make herself smaller to protect another person's insecurity. She agreed, though neither of them understood how quickly that insecurity would turn into action. Camilla requested the final seating chart after the rehearsal, claiming she wanted to review protocol. An aide later gave a documented account of seeing her circle Catherine's place with a fountain pen before carrying the chart into her office. On the banquet morning, she ordered the deputy household secretary to move her beside William. He refused. Camilla dismissed him and summoned a junior courtier. The frightened official hesitated while holding Catherine's printed card. She told him Charles would understand afterward. He obeyed, sliding it beneath the seating papers. Now William knew the insult had been calculated. As he returned toward the banquet hall, he was no longer seeking an explanation. He was carrying every restrained grievance toward a confrontation Camilla could no longer avoid. William returned without Catherine. That absence said more than any speech could have. He crossed the banquet hall while every guest remained motionless, stopped behind the chair Camilla had taken, and asked her to stand. She refused. Charles quietly urged them both to lower their voices. But the prince did not retreat. For the first time that evening, William named the insult directly. "You removed my wife's place so the room would watch her lose it." The banquet remained suspended. Plates sat untouched, conversations had vanished, and diplomats avoided looking toward the royal table. William understood why that silence mattered. The monarchy had survived countless family disputes by hiding them behind ceremony. But this time, the injury had happened before foreign guests. A state banquet was not merely a dinner. It was an official event used to represent the nation and strengthen relations with visiting leaders. Camilla had turned it into a public test of power. Charles raised one hand and proposed a brief recess. The king hoped the guests could leave while the family corrected the arrangement privately, but William refused. Catherine would not be asked to return until the place taken from her had been restored. He stepped closer to Camilla and asked whether she had personally ordered the card removed. Camilla lifted her chin. The queen consort admitted giving the instruction, but insisted that she had corrected an arrangement that diminished the reigning queen. William answered that she had strengthened nothing. She had humiliated a woman who had never challenged her before the public. His voice shook, not from uncertainty, but from the anger of seeing Catherine reduced to tears. Camilla then invoked a private conversation. She claimed Charles had warned that William and Catherine were becoming too dominant at official occasions. The monarch immediately denied approving any change. He admitted discussing balance within the family, but accused her of twisting concern into permission. The junior courtier appeared in the doorway moments later. Under direct questioning, he gave a recorded account to the master of the household, confirming that Camilla had ordered him to remove Catherine's card and promised that the king would understand after everyone had taken their seats. His words destroyed her final defense. Charles slowly removed his spectacles, folded them, and placed them beside his untouched glass. Without looking toward his wife, he ordered the courtier to return Catherine's name card to its original position. Camilla's expression changed. She stood at last, realizing the king would not shield her. Yet no apology followed. Instead, she warned William that forcing the confrontation into the open would damage the monarchy far beyond one evening. William did not move. He answered that the damage began the moment Catherine became a target. Camilla had surrendered the chair, but the greater decision now belonged to Charles. Was this merely a wounded woman's mistake, or an abuse of royal authority? Once the doors closed, the crisis stopped being a family argument and became a question of royal authority. Camilla had altered an approved state arrangement, invoked the king's name without permission, and publicly displaced the Princess of Wales. Charles now faced the decision he had avoided for years: protect his wife from humiliation, or protect the institution from the consequences of her actions. Alone with the seating chart before him, he understood that choosing silence would also be a choice. Charles entered the adjoining room with the Lord Chamberlain and the master of the household. The Lord Chamberlain, the senior royal official responsible for overseeing major ceremonial affairs, placed the altered chart, Catherine's recovered name card, and written rehearsal notes before him. The evidence mattered because state banquet arrangements passed through several layers of approval. Changing a senior royal's position without permission did not merely insult Catherine. It weakened the king's control over his own household. The monarch read every page without interruption. His anger never exploded. Something colder replaced it. He set the file down and stared at the name card, wounded by the knowledge that Camilla had used his authority to settle a private fear. Camilla entered and asked both officials to leave. The queen consort waited until the door closed before admitting that she had felt herself disappearing inside Charles's reign. Catherine's popularity was rising. William's future role was expanding, and every ceremony seemed to place the younger couple closer to the center. She told the king that she had acted before the palace quietly pushed her aside. Charles listened, but sympathy did not soften his answer. He told her that fear could explain her decision, yet it could never excuse what she had done to Catherine. The princess had been humiliated before foreign guests, and his name had been used to make the insult appear legitimate. The master of the household returned with another file. Through written internal records, he revealed that Camilla had challenged Catherine's placement at 2 earlier ceremonies. Palace aides had blocked both requests before they reached Charles. She had also sought authority to review the princess's ceremonial precedence, the official order showing where royal family members stand, sit, or walk during formal events. Officials had withheld the request because it created an obvious conflict of interest. Charles took up his pen. He signed an immediate directive declaring that no royal could independently change approved seating, procession order, or precedence. Every future alteration would require the sovereign's written authorization. His hand paused before the final stroke. Then he looked directly at Camilla and told her she would return to the banquet only after personally inviting Catherine back and restoring her place before the guests. Camilla stood silent. She could apologize in private or leave beneath the judgment of the household. The king had reclaimed control on paper, but the first consequence would appear on her face when she entered Catherine's room. Camilla entered the withdrawing room expecting tears, anger, perhaps even accusation. Instead, she found Catherine standing beside the window, calm enough to be frightening. William remained near the door but said nothing. The queen consort began with an explanation about pressure, precedence, and misunderstanding. Catherine stopped her with one quiet sentence: "You did not misunderstand where I was meant to sit." In that moment, Camilla realized the princess would no longer protect her from the truth. Catherine had recovered her composure, but she had not forgotten what happened. The withdrawing room, a private space where royal guests can step away from a formal event, gave her somewhere to breathe without hundreds of eyes measuring her reaction. She refused to return merely so the palace could pretend the insult had never occurred. Before taking another step toward the banquet, she wanted Camilla to admit that the humiliation had been intentional. William stayed beside the closed door. The prince had promised Catherine that he would remain silent unless she asked him to speak. This confrontation belonged to the two women, not to their husbands, titles, or palace officials. He watched his wife hold herself steady, while Camilla searched for words strong enough to defend what could no longer be denied. Camilla admitted that the rehearsal had left her feeling pushed aside. The queen consort said she feared becoming ceremonial decoration, while Catherine and William were presented as the monarchy's future. Catherine listened, then answered that insecurity did not give one woman the right to turn another into a public target. Catherine's voice broke only once. She said the worst moment had not been seeing Camilla in the chair. It had been realizing that the room was arranged so every guest would watch her discover the insult. The princess had not simply lost a place. She had been made part of a spectacle designed to expose her pain. Camilla lowered her voice and confessed that she expected Catherine to accept another seat without protest. She never imagined William would stop the banquet, or that Charles would refuse to protect the alteration. Catherine then revealed, through their private conversation, that she had considered leaving the palace entirely. She stayed because walking away would allow others to rewrite humiliation as weakness. Camilla reached for the banquet insignia pinned near her shoulder. The insignia, a formal badge worn to show royal rank or honor, had carried authority when she entered the hall. She removed it, placed it on the side table, and apologized without speaking of protocol, misunderstanding, or status. Catherine did not offer immediate forgiveness. She told Camilla that an apology could reopen a door, but only action could rebuild trust. The queen lowered her eyes, understanding that she had been offered restraint, not absolution. Catherine finally agreed to return on one condition. She would enter beside Camilla, and the queen consort would restore her name card before every guest. The private argument had ended, but the true turning point waited inside the room where the wound had been inflicted. No announcement preceded their return. The doors simply opened, and Catherine entered beside Camilla. The same room that had watched the princess stand abandoned now watched the queen consort carry her recovered name card toward the table. William remained motionless, uncertain whether Catherine had been pressured into accepting a hollow gesture. Then Camilla stopped at the chair, placed the card before it with both hands, and invited Catherine to take the position that had always been hers. Catherine had asked for one final minute alone in the corridor before they entered. No Charles, no William, no aides waiting to soften their words. She looked at Camilla and asked whether the apology would survive once the room began watching again. The queen answered that she could not erase the humiliation, but she could refuse to hide from the responsibility. Without palace officials between them, the choice became personal. Catherine admitted that trust would not return simply because the chair had been surrendered. She did not know whether she could believe Camilla's intentions again. The queen consort accepted that consequence and promised she would not demand forgiveness as the price of doing what was right. Camilla then confessed what she had been unable to say before. Catherine's calm strength frightened her. The princess represented a future the monarchy already seemed prepared to embrace, while she feared becoming a forgotten figure inside the present reign. Catherine listened without cruelty. She replied that the future did not require the present to be erased, but neither could fear be used to erase someone else. The banquet hall fell completely silent when they reached the table. Camilla placed Catherine's card in its approved position and stepped away. The gesture mattered because every diplomat, courtier, and royal relative who had witnessed the insult now witnessed its correction. No private statement could have carried the same force. William remained standing until Catherine reached him. The prince briefly took her hand, searched her face for any sign of pressure, and then pulled out the restored chair himself. She sat beside him without lowering her eyes. The tears had passed, but the pain remained, controlled now by quiet resolve. Charles rose before anyone could speak. The king announced that the approved seating arrangement would stand and that the banquet would resume. His words formally rejected Camilla's attempted change and reaffirmed Catherine's place within the royal order. Camilla moved to another seat farther down the table. For the first time that evening, she looked humbled rather than angry. She watched Catherine occupy the position she had tried to seize and understood that surrendering it had become the only way to preserve what remained of her dignity. The banquet resumed, but the moment could not be contained. By the final course, the restored name card had escaped the palace walls and become a symbol the public was about to judge. By morning, the banquet was no longer remembered for diplomacy, speeches, or glittering ceremony. Britain saw only one defining image: Catherine returning to the table, while Camilla placed the missing name card before her. The photograph captured pride, pain, surrender, and restoration in a single frame. Newspapers called it a royal reckoning. Crowds gathered outside Buckingham Palace. Commentators argued over rank and rivalry. But the public response centered on one unmistakable truth: the princess had been humiliated and had returned without losing her dignity. Charles rejected the first statement prepared by palace communications. The draft described the confrontation as a minor seating correction, language designed to quiet attention without admitting wrongdoing. The king understood that such wording would protect appearances while deepening the wound. Palace communications, the officials responsible for explaining royal decisions to the public, could not erase an incident already captured by witnesses and cameras. The final statement carried a harder truth. It confirmed that the approved arrangement had been improperly altered, that Catherine's place was restored, and that new controls would govern ceremonial changes. Those rules mattered because precedents, the formal order determining where royals sit, stand, and walk, could no longer be manipulated through private pressure. One newspaper captured the crisis more powerfully than any official explanation. Its front page showed Camilla returning Catherine's card beneath the headline, "The Chair, the Tears, the Return." The image became the story. It showed not only humiliation, but accountability unfolding before the same room that had witnessed the insult. Crowds gathered outside Buckingham Palace carrying flowers and handwritten messages for Catherine. One sign rose above the others: "Dignity does not need to shout." The words spread across broadcasts and social media because they described exactly what the public believed it had seen. She had not demanded revenge, she had simply refused to disappear. Catherine watched the coverage from a private sitting room and became overwhelmed. The princess felt no triumph. What moved her was the realization that strangers had recognized the pain she tried so hard to conceal. William stayed beside her, declining every request for an interview. Through an aide, the prince said her restored place spoke for itself. He would not turn suffering into a victory tour. Camilla read the same front page alone before carrying it to Charles. The Queen folded the paper, placed it face down, and admitted that the public had understood her action exactly as Catherine experienced it. She could no longer call the incident a misunderstanding. Broadcasters then disclosed, through the palace's written directive, that the king's new rule covered every future state occasion. No royal could privately change ceremonial order again. The world had chosen its symbol, and Charles had imposed his order. Now the family faced the final verdict, not over who won the chair, but over what each of them had become because of it. The state banquet began as a display of royal unity, and nearly ended as proof that the monarchy was breaking from within. Yet its final meaning was not determined by Camilla taking the chair, Catherine leaving in tears, or William's angry declaration. It was determined by what happened afterward. The insult was named. The authority behind it was challenged. The woman who caused it accepted responsibility, and the woman who endured it returned not as a victim, but as the clearest symbol of the crown's future. Catherine's restored seat became far more than a correction of palace protocol. The formal rules governing royal conduct and ceremony, could no longer be used as a shield for jealousy or private pressure. Her return confirmed that her role beside William could not be quietly diminished, simply because another person feared what the future represented. William had changed as well. The prince had once protected institutional calm by swallowing his anger, but that night he refused to preserve peace at Catherine's expense. His intervention established a boundary for their future reign. Loyalty to the crown would never require silence when his wife's dignity was deliberately attacked. Charles understood his own failure the following morning. The king met Catherine privately and apologized for not confronting the resentment surrounding her growing responsibility sooner. He admitted that his reluctance to address family tensions had allowed them to harden. She accepted his apology, but asked him never again to mistake silence for peace. The monarch agreed, knowing his signed directive had restored authority only after avoidance had nearly destroyed trust. Camilla faced consequences that no apology could instantly remove. The queen consort lost her informal influence over ceremonial planning and no longer had access to seating or precedence decisions without written approval. Precedence, the official order, determining where royals sit, stand, or walk, had become the very system she could no longer shape privately. Catherine offered restraint, but trust would have to be earned slowly. Catherine returned to the empty banquet hall before leaving the palace. Her name card remained beside the restored chair. She picked it up, studied it for a moment, and placed it back on the table. She did not carry it away as a trophy, because she had never wanted victory over Camilla. She had wanted recognition that dignity could not be erased. The evening crowned no winner and condemned no single loser. It exposed the difference between status demanded and respect earned. Camilla entered determined to prove her importance. Catherine departed, having demonstrated hers without demanding anything. Enough is enough, ended the palace's habit of hiding cruelty beneath ceremony. Her tears were not weakness. They revealed the cost of remaining graceful under pressure. Her return proved that forgiveness is not surrender, and that a future queen can defend her place without being consumed by the fight. The chair was restored, the apology was spoken, and the boundary was finally drawn. Catherine would serve the crown with loyalty, but never again by allowing herself to be erased. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.